Kelly Malazzi, I got to tell you, I am highly motivated today, and it comes down to one word. You want to know what the word is?
Lay it on me.
Starbucks. The way,
Bill,
what?
Bill, I have to stop you and tell you, you are not motivated right now. Okay, you are caffeinated. There's a
Oh,
very subtle difference there, my friend.
well, then I'm heavily, highly caffeinated.
Right
Uh,
on.
Self motivation is something that it's. I don't know if you'll ever find a manager talking about this, but you know what? Selling owners, salespeople, everybody needs something that is just a cushion to fall on. And we're going to talk today very quickly about having some short-term motivators. Long-term motivators might be, hey, look, if I have a great year, I'm going to buy a car. Or your boss might say to you, you know what? If you don't hit this level, I'm going to fire you. Those are also motivators. Fear is a great motivator. What we're talking about
Mhm.
here is the short-term stuff, the instant fix. So we'll give you some little options. Kelly, you know what? When I was writing this, I was very tempted to go online and Google something like motivational quotes and motivational actions, and I want the listener to do that. You know,
Yeah.
I really want people to do that. But motivators, there's lots of different types. There's visual and auditory. And Kelly, what are we talking about here? What are the difference between the two?
Well, again, pretty simply put, a visual would be something that you can see. It might be a picture, it could be a quote you've hung up on your wall. It could be looking out your window. That's something you look at every day that could motivate you. Those would be examples of visual ones. Auditory ones, again, would be something that you hear, whether it's a recorded voice of somebody who motivates you, or a song, or a movie quote that you can hear. Those would definitely be some examples of auditory ones. So, again, visual ones, you want to keep them within your sight of your workspace, something that you can turn to and look at on a regular basis if they work and make you feel better. Auditory ones, you definitely want to keep on your iPod, in your car, wherever you need them, someplace handy that you can pop it in and listen to it at a moment's notice.
Okay, so why do we need these things? Why? Because everybody gets down sooner or later. Especially when you're in sales, you have high highs, you have low lows. You have days where you feel you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and there's days where you just don't want to look at the phone, you don't want to look at the email, you don't want to talk to anybody because you've had a string of bad news. You know, Motivation, I believe motivation to be very similar to putting the centerboard down in the sailboat. Kelly, you ever heard me give this analogy before?
I kind of tune you out when you start talking about sailboats, Bill, because I live in Chicago. We don't sail in Chicago.
I tune you out. That's so funny. Oh my God. You too, huh? Yeah, I got a lot of
Yeah.
women. I got a lot of women in my life that do that. Motivation, like the center of the sailboat. If you're in a sailboat and you're without a sailboat, without a centerboard, you're getting blown all over the ocean. Motivation pushes that centerboard down. Organization, even time management, pushes that centerboard down and it drives the boat in the direction that you are aiming it. That's what it's about. We need that kind of motivation to get where we're going. And then finally, because thoughts become things. That's what Mike Dooley talks about. And I'm reading his, I don't know if it's his latest book or a couple of books back called Manifesting Change. And he talks about having that end point in mind. And the more you think about that, the more chance it has to becoming true. So then there are a couple different kinds of motivators when it comes to short term. One of them is daily. Speaking something on a daily basis, looking at something on a daily basis, listening to something on a daily basis, and then there's the one you have kind of like the fire alarm. If in case of emergency, break glass. So Kelly, let me ask you, when you hit your low points, what do you do? What's your motivator?
I mean, I would definitely say that I have both. Daily, are some quotes I have hanging on my cork board in my office. One is the kind of a synopsis of the four agreements, which is something that really helps me in a lot of different situations. More on demand, my break glass in case of emergency is actually, brace yourself for this. Um, it's Another One Bites the Dust by Queen, which is just a rocking battle song. Like, it just fires me up and makes me feel good no matter what. So if I'm going to a difficult sales call
That's funny.
or I'm getting ready to sit down and, make some cold calls, something like that, this song gets me worked up
You
for
know what?
sure.
Mike Dooley in that book, Manifesting Change, talks about Freddie Mercury. And Freddie Mercury, when he was well before he was famous, they still called him larger than life. He was
Huh.
broke. He would live in a different person's house every night so he wouldn't wear out his welcome. He had 5 people. He just moved from one house to another and he'd sleep on their floor. But he was so convinced in his head that success was imminent that he was working from the standpoint of success. It was fascinating to read about that. So it's really interesting that you say that. So listen,
Yeah.
Google this. Get a motivational quote. This is one that appears in the bottom of an email that I get from my friend Greg, and he says, "You can only succeed beyond your wildest dreams if you have big, wild dreams." I love that. The
Mhm.
quote that appears on the bottom of mine, I love mine, from Tom Hanks. He says, "It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great." The other thing you can do is you can get a picture of your kids, a car, a boat, a trip, a famous place that you want to go to, something that you want to achieve. These are all terrific little motivators. The auditory stuff, you heard Kelly talk about music. I'm one that has the CD series. It's a book on tape, book on CD. It's called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. This is a great series. You can find that on eBay for about 25 bucks. It's worth it. Maybe even less if it's used. But you pop these things in, you listen to them for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops, boom. It's story after story after story of success. And finally, I've got some clients, and I'm starting to get into this one myself through visualizing. But the other one is to have a mantra, something that you say on a daily basis, basically saying, everything I touch today will turn to gold. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because success breeds success. So, Kelly, what's your song? What was it? Not We Are the
Another One
Champion.
Bites the Dust by
Another
Queen.
another one bites the dust. Okay, I've
But
never.
Bill, speaking of songs, I think I have to call you out on something. Did you
Oh
earlier
God.
in this short attention span webinar refer to a country music song when you said 10 foot tall and bulletproof?
Oh yeah, I'm a big country fan. I am. You didn't know that about me? I'll tell you what.
I have heard you refer to that before, but I am having a hard time
Hey,
accepting that you're a
hey,
country music
I
fan.
am recording this with a Clemson University sweatshirt on because I spoke at Clemson. I went to college at the University of Alabama. I speak Southern.
Okay.
So you'll hear me say fixin', you'll hear me say y'all. I slip it in there. I'm a northern boy, but I
Wow.
love country music. I went to a Jason Aldean concert this summer. Luke Bryan.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Call me out. Oh man, I tell you what. See, that's good Southern. All right, gang, this is out of control, and we will talk to you again in the next short attention span webinar. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye, y'all.